one of the first establishments in Florence. So he had this daughter. Now, Dante never says that this is Beatrice Portinari. It's really the commentators who will go on revealing the identity. But they were actually neighbors. They lived in the neighborhood, so he must have seen her very often. And we do know that Dante met Beatrice when she was 8 years old and he was 9.
I first saw her near the end of my 9th year. She appeared dressed in the most noble of colors, a subdued and decorous crimson, girded and adorned in a style suitable to her years. The words of the poet Homer suited her well. She did not seem to be the daughter of any ordinary man, but rather of a god.
From Dante's collection of love poetry and prose called La Vita Nuova, or The New Life, published when he was 30. It had been 21 years since he first set eyes on the girl called Beatrice. Her name, Beatrice, means blessed. And he was still fascinated by her. Amilcare Iannucci.
In the Vita Nuova, the first consciously constructed book in the Italian language, Dante the poet, collects poems that he has written. And most of these poems have been written to Beatrice or in some way are connected to Beatrice. And then he writes a commentary on these poems. First of all, he does a formal analysis of them. He divides them. And he says by dividing the poem into content blocks, one can understand better the sententia, the meaning. And then he contextualizes the poem. He places them in historical context. His first encounter with Beatrice as a child, and then his gradual understanding that Beatrice is more than a woman. She's a miracle, and in fact, she is similar to Christ in his own life. She's a saving figure. She's a figure of transformative love. Meaning in his life is associated with Beatrice. In fact, is determined by Beatrice.
The second of 4 sightings of Beatrice, 9 years after the first. Again from the Vita Nuova.
While walking down a street, she turned her eyes to where I was standing, faint-hearted, and with that indescribable graciousness that today is rewarded in the eternal life. She greeted me so miraculously that I felt I was experiencing the very summit of bliss. It was precisely the 9th hour of that day when her sweet greeting reached me.
John Ficero.
Beatrice, he says in the Vita Nuova, is a 9. What exactly he means by a 9 is hard to say. He's playing a little bit with a pun in Italian between nove, which is the number 9, and nova, which is the adjective meaning new. But Beatrice is a miracle, like the number 9, with which, ever since Pythagoras, one is able to do so many things. That's part of the mystical world in which he finds himself immersed as a young man. This is a man for whom the historical events of his life, including the meeting of a 9-year-old in the streets of Florence, are nevertheless a sign of an incarnational presence in the universe, that Christ comes specifically in the history of whichever person. There is simply no doubt that Beatrice arrives as a Christ figure, the Christ event in Dante's life. So it's that meeting of Dante with Beatrice which is the central metaphor of the whole of the Divine Comedy. And this is the stunning part of his invention about Beatrice. She is certainly a historic person.
She lived and she died, and the meaning Beatrice had for Dante was magnified after her death at age 24, preparing the way for her presence in the Divine Comedy. Dante finds her at last in the earthly paradise, the Garden of Eden, right at the summit of the mountain of Purgatory. Through a cloud of flowers scattered by angels, and to the sound of heavenly choruses, Beatrice appears, veiled in a wreath.
Listen, and you shall hear how my buried flesh should have led you to another way. Never have you seen in nature or in art a beauty like that of my form, which clothed me once, and now is turned to dust. I wish from now on that you free yourself from fear and shame, and no longer speak like someone in a dream.
In the afterlife, Beatrice has been transformed from the lady of courtly love poetry and song that Dante admired so much. She has become transcendent. Dante is no longer lost in his own life. He's climbed up the terraces of the 7 deadly sins and been refined by passing through a wall of fire. On the way, he's had to lose Virgil, the pagan, who cannot enter the Christian mysteries with him. Beatrice will guide Dante. She leads him into 2 holy streams, where he is purified. What now lies before Dante is the heavenly paradise.
Io ritornai della santissima onda rifattosi come piante novelle rinnovellate di novella fronda, puro e disposto a salire alle stelle. From the most sacred waters I returned, remade in the way that trees are new when their leaves bloom, pure and ready to ascend to the stars.
On Ideas, CBC Radio One, this has been Purgatorio, Part 2 of the 3-part series on the Divine Comedy, Dante, Poet of the Impossible. The program was written by Greg Kelly. Readings by Angela Fusco and David Calderisi. Dante was Damiano Pietro Paolo. Associate producer, Liz Naj. Technical producer, Dave Field. The producer for Ideas was Marilyn Powell. Special thanks to Professor Eugenio Ragni at the University of Rome and Cinzia Gizzi and family. Transcripts are available for the entire series at $25. Audio cassettes are $34, including taxes and shipping. You can order with a credit card by calling 416-205-7367. Or by sending a check or credit card information to Ideas Transcripts, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, M5W1E6. We've also prepared a reading list and a music list for this series. They're both free. Just write Dante at the usual Ideas mailing address. And you may want to join our online forum about Dante, where you can ask questions or make comments about Dante and the Divine Comedy. You can find it on our website, www.cbc.ca/ideas. In the third and final program in this series, the third and final book of the Divine Comedy, the Paradiso. The executive producer of Ideas is Bernie Lucht, and I'm Paul Kennedy. Please stay tuned now for the hourly news, followed by the Arts Today and Between the Covers.